Hey fanbase, it is a rainy day. My eyes are irritated as fuck, and here we are on a Wednesday night. So I figure what better excuse to go ahead and do a monoblog. So that being said, right off the top, I've been jamming with the guys who I said I would be lately. It seems like the old post-hardcore band that I talked about previously. That's not gonna work out. That's dramatic and petty and shit now. It's kind of sad no output really came out of it, but that's life, I guess. Um, oh yeah, so in terms of jamming on the actual noise opera songs, I've been working on that as well as adaptations of Grand Battle songs and probably even Nepo songs to play live. So Monomated is a live band. Aw shit, I know you didn't see that one coming. I can't say I really did either, but I'm just glad that it's been working out as it has thus far. Um, I haven't really been working on Hazy Days. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of burnt out on recording and structuring songs and all that kind of thing right now. It's just I'm fucking exhausted after Nepo, and I don't really want to strain myself in a huge way in that regard. I've become really good at jamming lately, though, so improvisational shit is probably going to be a big part of the mono live show now, because every time I try to play one of the songs that I've written, that's inevitably what happens, and it sounds really good. So I think I'm going to address some of the questions that you guys asked on the last video's comments. Let's traipse on over and see what the deal is. When did you first get into Nintendo Core? Well, once upon a time, I was a scenester, and it was my sophomore year of high school. And I remember being into cyber bands with Will, along the lines of like Cutting Pink or Genghis Tron or that kind of thing. And I remember hearing Horse the Band, and given that I've been a nerd my whole fucking life, obviously the reason why me and everyone else enjoys them as much as it is because it's like so nostalgic. And yeah, we just kind of wanted it to be like a heavier horse initially. And so it was the whole like grind pop or whatever the fuck I even called it then. Nintendo grind, yeah, that's what it was. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how that came about. Initially as Abandoned Ghost Ship. I'm sure a few of you have heard that dancedance.mp3. It's labeled under I Am Error. That was the first actual song. Let's see. Or did I just think I could do it better? No, have your horse. Yeah, that's when, as far as Inpatient, Outpatient, or Monomate, it's not about seeing it done and doing it better, but it's kind of about converting music to a medium that it wasn't intended to be in. Like for Nepo, you know, there's really this niche that exists for noise in a poppy context when noise is still melodic and sounds good and it's like very immersing, a la My Bloody Valentine. But I feel like that's not really being tapped for some inane reason, and everyone's like really stuck on like really glossy, compressed um, production, like along the lines of Capsule or Pone Pone Pone. And I enjoy those songs, but it's like, why not distort it and make it fucking raw and danceable? Because, I mean, that's kind of what I find appealing anyway. Let's see. Impatient Outpatient. Yeah, I guess where I first really appreciated bit crushing was hearing Black Moth Super Rainbow Star to People. And ironically, that's how me and Will started talking after on the whole post IAE fallout. Is he hit me up because he heard some songs I had that had big crushing on them, and he didn't know what the effect was. So that's kind of how we started talking again, and you know, much after we would end up making Comfort and other songs. So it's kind of ironic in retrospect coming from shitty seeming Nintendo Core roots to both making kind of more mature electronic music. Do I think I'll get tired making this kind of music I'm making now? No shit. I mean, if you look at my discography, it it changes so rapidly. from album to album because I don't really see the point of beating a dead horse in the ground anymore. Like in Grand Battle days, it was more about like trying to reach a certain level that I felt was professional per se, and then I would feel like, oh, you know, I'm going to get all the success now and this and that. But realistically, the hype machine is so much more complex than that, and I don't know how to market myself, or I don't know what's happening, but that exponential growth hasn't happened just yet. We're on the cusp of it. I see it happening in ads and stuff, but it's not like quite to the IMER explosion. Maybe that's just because Facebook isn't what MySpace was, but oh man, that was a tangent. From album to album, I don't see any point on continuing something that has been done or that I've already done. So yeah, pretty much I have all these like weird ideas for albums in my head, to be coming, like a microtonal dance album. That's one. Um, a Mogi ambient, like Mexican traditional song kind of structure. So like Moog, not quite Tejano, but like, or not as like cheesy as mariachi either, but just like traditional Mexican songs. You won't really get it unless you grew up around that, and then you'll kind of know what kinds of songs that your grandparents always play. So there's gonna be that. Obviously, the noise opera, Hazy Days. Uh, I think I hit all the big ones. Yeah. My favorite track from Trout Yogurt, probably Forest of Fellatio. It's quite pretty, I feel. From Grand Battle, I think Saccharine Wasteland kind of like marks a landmark in composition for me because it's such like a varied song and it has so many phases, if you will. But in terms of production, I think Big Fish was kind of where I was like, oh my god, that vocal harmony actually sounds professional. That's a fucking trip. On Nepo, I'm not quite sure what my favorite song is, to be honest. Yeah, that's, I don't know. There's a lot of songs that I enjoy on that album. Like there's songs that I like for the wrong reasons because they're so half-assed or like just kind of raw that um, you know, it's liberating to be able to release that kind of album, or it's one where you just don't give a fuck about feedback or anything else, but just like make the songs that you want to make for whatever arbitrary reason. Obviously, I'm gonna be working on stuff that's a little more directed in the future, but to have a kind of, you know, fuck off white album, that was very liberating. Were you the guy fan that looked like a girl? No, that was Dylan Tolsma LaRue. All these pretty boy fans, it's very strange. Do I ever think music like mine will become mainstream? How do I feel about mainstream music today as opposed to when I first started listening to music? It's a very essay-style question. If you're asking if I'll ever be big, per se, I don't necessarily see that happening. I'd like for it to. I think my music is good enough to become more hyped than it is. But, do I think music like mine, per se, like every fucking song on Nepo? Because I think that's wildly unrealistic. Because for me, I think when you're indie, the key to success is connecting to a female poppy audience. Because like what it is, like what they like is they like 60s songs dressed in reverb. And my songs have reverb, but they definitely deviate from that at those obvious blues-based confines. How do I feel about mainstream music today? Well, I think mainstream music today is, you know, you have to take it at face value. Like, it's kind of interesting that, you know, there's a whole science to making a hit, per se. Like, what people will always dance to. And, you know, just, like, sounding, mixes that sound consistently that big. Like, I have some beef with vocal mixing on that sometimes, but, um, I think to be, like, one of the top producers, I think that's definitely a worthy accolade. But not something I would ever aspire to. if I'm gonna be big, I want for it to be on my own terms, and I don't accept any other terms at all. For some of my songs, they tend to end abruptly. Well, going along on the same not giving a shit theme of this past album, it kind of makes sense, because when you listen to it on the release, it segs from one to another, just hitting you like a fucking ton of bricks. But when you listen to them individually on YouTube, it sounds so incomplete and kind of just forced to stop. So the obvious resolution is you just listen to the whole album all the way through as it's intended to be listened to, and not just listen to the singles. You discriminating fans, you. Why no Positive Outlook leads? Well, that's because the big singles on Positive Outlook, I wouldn't. Well, or no, they're mostly mashups. They're not really my vocals. So to release stems of someone else's samples, that seems really silly to me, and not something that I want to spend my web hosting on. That's just ridiculous. So, I think that's the end of the questions. Oh, one last thing that I said I was going to go over is recently I listened to my discography when I was frying, and I had a kind of surprising perspective on it. Even listening like up from I Am Air and going up to even my more recent stuff, it all sounded very two-dimensional and juvenile to me. So I think that's kind of why I've aspired lately to have a more kind of organic freeform sound than just, okay, this amount of loops, this many repetitions. It's gotten so pedantic and tiresome to me, and that's really why this release isn't getting done. So hang in there with me, and I think we're running out of time, but I want to play for you one of the Noise Opera songs thus far on piano, and just as a little teaser. Who knows how well the sound is going to come out, and it's a fucking laptop, so we'll see how that works out. Bide with me, comrades. You'll be glad I did this. Something about this feels kind of unstable, but we'll see whether that's actually the case or not. This one's called Naivete 2.